Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
For those of you standing, please feel free to filter in. There's plenty of spots over here. I felt a little lonely over there, actually. Welcome. I'm so happy to have you all here today. We put in quite a bit of work to make sure that today is so relevant to you guys. So I want to talk about that before I introduce Jane, about why we host this event, why it's important to us. So, who is Mass MEP? For those of you who don't know, who signed up for a random event, wonderful to have you here, and I'll tell you a little bit about it. So we're a group of individuals who are passionate about manufacturing, who have dedicated decades to the industry, experiencing the highs and lows, learning from mistakes, and envisioning the potential. We're here to educate, to serve you, the manufacturers of Massachusetts, about the landscape, the ecosystem, and what's to come. How it can be of value, how the state can be of value, and why people are still the key to success. Yes, I'm the technology person talking about people. But I want to talk about the emphasis there on educating. Today isn't about a sales pitch. We have some wonderful vendors here today, but we've been very selective about who comes. It is so important to us that manufacturers don't buy something to purchase something and have the latest technology, that it fits and is relevant to their company at the right time. We're here as the Manufacturing Extension Partnership. Yes, that's what MEP stands for. To provide a roadmap for all manufacturers to sustain and grow in the state. Throughout today, I urge you to think outside the way you would typically operate and think about what's possible, the what if. So we've been all around the state the past year, and one of the people we've run into several times is Jane Arnold. I heard her speak last year, and it was clear to me and others that her experience in business, her expertise in technology, along with her care for people, would make her a great speaker for today. Jane Arnold is a senior industry executive with over 3 decades of experience in chemical, discrete, and additive manufacturing. As a digital leader in Industry 4.0, she is dedicated to enhancing the impact of manufacturing through the cutting-edge technology adoption. Through her career, Jane has held executive positions at Stanley Black & Decker and Covestro, where she was responsible for spearheading digital transformations. Jane has her own advisory business and serves as a board member. Most recently, Jane joined Apiro as Chief Customer Officer with a focus on the industrial data quality problem. Please welcome Jane Arnold.
So thank you for that great introduction, and hopefully you can hear me. I'm used to wandering around a bit. We'll see how it goes. So what I wanted to talk to you about is really about the Industrial Revolution, and I don't want to take it from an academic standpoint, but from a practitioner's view. And I wanted to share my experiences with you on technology and people and adoption, and where I see the future of manufacturing going at this point. Can everyone hear me okay? Am I close enough to the microphone?
Yes.
So we'll talk a little bit about Industrial Revolution, a little bit about the state of manufacturing. You'll get more details on the state itself from Mass MEP, and some of my experience as to why transformation fails. So I want to give you a little bit of background about how I got to be on this spot right now. And I started as a summer job at an old Monsanto chemical plant in Texas. And I hired on right after they sold off the chemicals division. So it came Sterling Chemicals. And summer job, and I was fascinated by how things were made. So I changed my trajectory and became an engineer, and my summer job turned into 16 years. So I did process control, start off with panel board instrumentation and DCS. I wrote control algorithms to help improve the plant. There's one important takeaway for me during my time at Sterling, and that was I actually have a degree in mathematics, not in engineering, and I wanted to understand better what the operator was doing. So I was allowed to join the operator training for a year, and I went through all the classes with the operators, and I actually worked as an operator on shift on the board for 4 months. And this was after we had already transitioned everything to control, and we put, I wrote all this code to have everything run automatically and all that kind of stuff. And those 4 months on the board really opened my eyes to what the operator goes through, because they accept whatever the engineer gives them, and they make it work. So I actually spent half the time on the board realizing all the mistakes and the flaws that were in there, and then trying to improve it. And so from that point on, that was in the early mid-90s, that point on, I decided that we have to do a bottoms-up approach to change and to making improvements. And that's where your biggest bang comes from. And it helps with adoption of technology and making sure we're solving the right problems. Not just what someone dreams up, but actually the ones that, with the people with their hands closest to the process, what they see. So I ended up leaving Sterling due to bankruptcy a few times and things like that, and joined Bear Material Science. So Bear Material Science was a division of Bear Corporation, and they did an IPO in 2015 and became Covestro. So that's all the same company. So it was another 16 years with Covestro. And I had all kinds of great opportunity. Started off in an MDI plant, polyurethane plant, learning the process, working with the operators, and then doing my magic, because they consider the DCS a black box, and Jane performed magic. But it was the same kind of thing, bottoms up approach, where your real problems and making improvements. I got some development opportunities, and got to be a unit lead, and then eventually a production train lead, so a plant manager. And I had all of maintenance and engineering and operations, as well as all the permit stuff and the safety stuff and everything that goes along with that. So it was a great experience, and probably the funnest job I've had in my career. Covestro asked me if I wanted to be considered for a senior role in Germany, and I said yes. I really didn't think I'd get it, so I said yes. I figured it was safe. Anyway, 6 months later, I'm living in Germany, and I'm a senior vice president over global process control technology. And the board asked me to implement Industry 4.0. And we all kind of nodded our heads, yeah, we know what that is, sure, we'll do that. So we started to learn about what it was, what was missing, and I'd spent the prior 2 decades in Industry 3.0, and I was like, well, what else could we do? And I was suddenly opened up to all the possibilities that were out there. So it was really interesting, and I'll go a little bit more into that next. But at the pandemic, probably like everyone else, rethink things, and decided I want to do something different. I joined Stanley Black & Decker and took what I knew about chemical and technology and application of technology to discrete and additive manufacturing. And yes, you're making different things different ways, but all the problems are the same with data acquisition, data quality, connecting with the workers, making sure that we're actually listening and doing the right things. And then I retired. Obviously that worked out well. And after a lot of convincing, I joined Aperio, and they're a software as a service startup, and we're looking at industrial data quality, so time series data quality, and doing anomaly detection. And once I saw it actually working, I thought, okay, this is cool, I'm going to join, because data is a huge problem in the industry. So we all know what the industrial revolution is, and what's interesting to me is how did all of this change over the years impact the human condition? And that's what I find so fascinating about it, because if you go through all the stories of the different revolutions, you can see how humans, us, have prospered from additional technology and what's going on. And when we look at Industry 3, Industry 3 is where I grew up Industry 4 is where we're at now, and they're also now talking about Industry 5. And when we look at Industry 5, I'll have to come back to my thought on that one. But when we look at the Industry 4 and getting the value out of that, and then on top of that adding in the quality of the planet and people, that's where Industry 5 comes from. But just to understand those of you who haven't started on the journey yet, the kind of impact you can have implementing digital strategies or transformation, I have a couple of real examples from my own history. And this information was given somewhere else public, so even though I don't work for those companies anymore, it's been approved already. But if you look at the far right, the industry box, this is a survey from the World Economic Forum across all the different industry verticals about, when you start doing transformation, where do you see the biggest gains? And so it really depends on your starting point. If you're starting with nothing, then your biggest gain going into improving your on-stream time or OEE is going to be significant. If you're well advanced, like we were at Cabestro, then you won't see the same gains, the same scale of gains. But when you're talking between 90 and 95% on-stream time, that is huge. And so that's what we were focused on. So these two examples that I have, the first one is Stanley Black & Decker, so large manufacturing. And they didn't have, they hired me to install Industry 4, but they didn't have data. They had a few lighthouse factories and some interesting work going on, but there was not a data pool. There wasn't a data historian. We weren't collecting information off the assets in a consistent way. And so we needed to order hardware to actually do that properly. And with supply chain issues, some of the delivery times were like over a year just for servers for this sort of thing. So we looked at Tulip interfaces and said, okay, well, what can we do with this low-code, no-code platform on the plant floor? And we tried that out in a few different factories, so we had a year of proof of concept. And what's great about their platform, and I'm sure there's other similar, so I'm not trying to pitch just Tulip, I'm sorry, but is that it's expected and required that you're actually engaging the work floor. The people on the shop floor who have their hands in the process, and you're saying, okay, what problem can I help you solve with technology? And so we tried a few different applications at different sites, and then we looked at the value behind that. It was significant because we were going from almost nothing to something and had those first great steps. In that first year, we identified $10 million in productivity improvements without cutting any heads, just by doing things more efficiently. And they're still rolling it out and putting it at other sites. So it's an alternative to the hardwired way of Industry 3 and putting everything in the data historian. There's other ways to get that data and to make it interesting. The example on the end there is for my time at Cabestro, and when they asked me to implement Industry 4, we looked at what were the major causes of outages on one year that we were sold out. And we back traced all of the major outages to 120 million EBITDA loss that year. And we said, okay, we're going to tackle the problems that covered those losses. And so we built on top of our data historian, and we filled all the gaps with different applications to solve this problem. And what's great now, after the fact, you can't prove that you saved any money, so that's it. But their OEE has been consistently higher. And I still mentor my protege, even though I've been gone for 3 years. And he tells me that people are responding to the data, which is what you want. You want actionable insights from the data. So it's very impactful. But it's two completely different starting points, two completely different methods. But you've got to get started to get the value out of that. So I wanted to mention that Tulip is here today. And I know this wasn't a pitch for Tulip, but Tulip is here today in one of the breakout rooms, so you can learn more about what their platform and what they're doing. So Industry 5. So on to that. So I happen to know the deputy head of Industry 5.0 in Europe, and Shauna Regain, and he shared some slides with me and said I could use them. So it's really about taking this industrial transformation and making a difference to the people and to the planet. And I asked him, very, very skeptical, how on earth are we going to change the way business works, who's focused on the bottom line, and actually make it, you know, people-centric and planet-centric? And he said, well, through policy. And so in Europe, they are writing and issuing policy to improve the way the human condition is treated in manufacturing as well as the planet. So I'm hopeful that you know, this is a paradigm shift for manufacturing worldwide. So when we look a little bit more just at Industry 5, so we are building on 4.0, so there's going to be a lot of argument, no, it's not any different. It actually is, because the focus is now on the humans and on the planet. And the idea is that the prosperity will be beneficial beyond just creating new jobs, but there's actually going to be an inclusion aspect, equity within the workforce, and then prosperity for the planet. And that's the purpose behind that. So when we look at collaborative ecosystem, and this is all about what Industry 5 means, and you know, you want to make sure that you're augmenting your manufacturing or augmenting your human manufacturers with technology and automation, collaborative robots, AI, you know, and just empowering workers with digital tools. You want to bring the innovation of the human with the repeatability of the tools, the software tools and the hardware tools, to actually have real improvements. So I did a little research on what is the state of manufacturing today, and have a couple of slides for that. So when we look at, you know, as you all know, what is the problem with manufacturing today? There's a human impact, and then there's some trends that we're seeing. So the human impact, the labor shortage, of course, we're all very familiar with the labor shortage. And then the generational shift, you know, we have a lot of people retiring, which contributes to the labor shortage, and there is a skills gap amongst the younger workers coming in, as far as being skilled in the trades. We do have an increase of disruptive events, the pandemic, these wars, things that are going on, all these things that make people worry and anxious, and disrupt supply chain and things like that. So I agree earlier, very much when earlier was said that, you know, we have to, you know, digitize the supply chain in order to be beneficial across the United States. We absolutely, that means all small and mediums as well, and not just the big players. And we need to work on workforce transformation and moving data to the cloud. As painful as that is, it is an efficient way to manage your data. So this was from May of 2021, Wall Street Journal article, talking about that the U.S. jobs opening reaches a new record as hiring slows. We all know that this happened during the pandemic, and we saw the impact of that in our homes. I also stopped working for a period of time, and everyone around me did as well. So when we look at part of that, you know, called the Great Resignation. So I joke and say I was part of that Great Resignation, because I also resigned during that time. But 40% of manufacturers, manufacturing workers alone, separated from their jobs in 2021. That is really significant, and it's difficult to continue to improve the business, to do your transformation when you don't have the people and the skills to do so. So this is an interesting slide. You can see the peak there is the pandemic. But what I want you to notice is that this is how many workers are available per job opening. And just one thing I want to point out. So this is one. So this line means that there is less than one worker available for each job opening in the United States. And so if you're looking at a particular skill set, a particular part of the country, and things like that, it's not that you're going to have this one person come in and find it. You're going to really have a hard time getting that information. And this is in the US labor statistics, if you wanted to get more information and pull that up. But it's really telling, there's just not that many people out there. So what are we to do to make it to be successful? So I also want to point out there are 4 breakout sessions that involve the human element in some way. So please, to learn more about the different trends there, to join these breakout rooms. But in my research, what I found out is that the next generation, this is also another Wall Street Journal article, is the Zoomers, so Generation Z, and why are they choosing blue collar work? So what the article reads, and you can confirm yourself with what you're seeing in the industry, is that there's a lot of tech workers being laid off. So these kids who are coming out of high school, thinking about college, they're seeing their parents be laid off from, Alphabet or Google or whoever, all the big companies, and they're like, well, I want to have better job security. So this particular example, both of his parents were tech workers, they both got laid off, and he decided he was going to be a welder. And he's going to be making 6 figures within 5 years by learning that trade and doing that work. And that's why he chose it. So there seems to be a trend that this younger generation is fed up with college first, and they want to actually, get their hands in there and make a difference and make some change. So I have a little bit of hope there that eventually the workforce problem, it won't be solved, but it'll be different. We'll have more workers to do the work, but we still have to make sure that they're properly trained and we have technology to make the job interesting for the workers. Because this is one of the things we're looking at. As we make improvements in technology and actually implement it in the factories, these younger generation is interested in doing the work more. So why does transformation fail? It fails a lot. So if you read all the statistics, I won't go into statistics for you, but I'm hoping that with the push of transformation as well as the push of the human-centric and sustainability, that we'll actually start making better choices going forward. And so I always look at people, process, technology when I'm looking at a project or something. And employees are always resistant to change. If you do a bottoms-up approach to transformation, then you won't have that problem. You'll have included the people who are engaged with it. This also worked for me when I was living over in Germany. We included the workers' councils, so the union heads, in our discussions on transformation to make sure that everyone was aligned and understood the value behind it. There was no headcount layoff that was coming with it. It was just improvements because we're doing smarter things with data. And then for onboarding of projects, this again has to do with change management, engineers working in a bubble. Hey, this is the next greatest thing, we need to implement it. I don't know how we're going to use it, but it's cool, so let's use that. So there's problems there. And then data quality and data availability. The most important things you have to do as you're doing your transformation is make sure you can access the data and that the data is correct. And so there's some work to be done there to do that. But as you have that, as you have the data and you know the data is good, you can start actually having really beneficial insights. So when I first joined Stanley Black & Decker, I found this slide. I think I might have even borrowed it from Tulip. But I found this slide, and this is what I was expecting, something just really super cool. And because I had not been in a manufacturing unit before, it's all been chemical processes. And I drove to the closest factories by my house. So it was to Dallas. It was a 3 or 4 hour drive. And I went in there, and I was really shocked because this is not what I saw. So what I saw was this, where it's like there's paper everywhere, there's hanging wires, the computer monitors aren't even hooked up, and I'm like, what are we doing here? There's so much potential. You can't just kind of come in and implement Industry 4 and walk out. It's really a transition. It's really a change that has to be embraced. And so I saw it really telling in the far picture with the cable mess. We used to have contests at Covestro about who had the best wall of shame or worst wall of shame. as one of the ways to get funding to improve it, because if you accidentally pull a wire, you disconnect a transmitter that shuts down the unit, that's a bad thing. So we would show pictures of our walls of shame and correct them all. But how did that get there is we have people working in a bubble. We have consultants and engineers and things that really know what they're doing, but they don't know the exact status of where the plant is. And so they're saying, here's where you need to be, here's how you get there, but there's a gap between the reality and what they're trying to push. And the reason why it fails is because you leave out the workers. This has been done historically. I'm seeing it trend now where there's more and more companies that are engaging the shop floor workers and maintenance workers to find out what is a real problem, how can we make it better, and it does have an impact. So when we look at how do we get there, so this slide I showed, or I took from the pharma industry, because it's great, the digital plant maturity model. So you need to look at every single location that you have and start there. It's great to have an overarching goal of here, I want to get here, I want to save this amount of dollars, I want to do these things, whatever, this is my budget. But it's not cookie cutter. You approach every site where it's at. And so this is one way we looked at it at Stanley as we were developing roadmaps for all the different sites, was where is each site at? And how do we go from that level of maturity to making improvements? And so we were able to do that, and they have plans, and they're still going forward with those plans. I also mentor the people I left behind at Stanley and talk every few weeks and hear how it's going and how they're doing. But as you're looking at this seems a bit complicated maybe, because it's fairly abstract. I think I've got a link in there to the actual white paper from the pharma industry to go into more detail. But there are road mapping tools and people available who can help you with road mapping. And I'd say for the first one or two, you engage them like that. SESME has a nice road mapping tool. They're here today. And I understand that Mass MEP either has been or it's getting trained, and so they're also able to provide those services. And I think it's important to have a practitioner or someone who guides the discussion, who's not intimately involved with that. So they're trying to play the devil's advocate and help you think about things and like that, and they're not just tunnel vision on what they know is there. So I recommend you doing that. So again, when you're trying to transform operations, you really have to fit the workers. It needs to be interesting for the workers in order to get the productivity and business growth. So you have to remember that having data and doing this transformation is financially profitable to do. And we can do that being human-centric and making sure that we're taking care of the planet and not taking its last resources at the same time. So we have to have the site engagement and not just plan it at the central level, but actually talk to the shops. Have the voice of the customer. In this case, that customer might be that shop floor engineer or operator, or maybe the supervisor, plant lead. And when you're choosing technology, I always recommend that it's something easy to use. If the workers have to struggle with it for more than just a couple seconds, they're not going to use it. And you'll fail because you haven't chosen something that makes sense to them. If you engage the shop floor workers as you're planning your transformation, and they tell you, oh, this interface is terrible, then you know that they're not going to use it, and you work with them to make it better. So success is possible. I just want to throw that out there. You must keep humans at the center. And sustainable change, and then I'm talking about sustainable change and transformation, you have to use the feedback, the data, and have a continuous loop. And be flexible with your changes, because not every site, every line even, is going to be the exact same. And it's a journey, so you just have to take a leap and get started. And we do have these breakout sessions, so I just want to mention them again, that you please join them. I think that we have the opportunity to go to 3 different rooms each. So I'm looking forward to hearing about some of those different topics. And there's a QR code here, and if someone wants to ask me questions, I'll come at the end and I'll respond to those questions. Feel free also to stop me during the day. You can sit down and talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. So, thank you.